Hey, everybody. So, welcome to another episode of Your Intuitive Heart podcast. I am recording this and I'm going to post it on YouTube so you guys will be able to watch it there. Not really sure what I'm coming on for today. I feel like I need to discuss. I had a really good discussion with a friend of mine today who's kind of going through some relationship stuff. And yeah, this is what needs to happen today. So, this is going to be for those of you who are in a relationship with people who really can't seem to step out of their fear in order to love you. And if you're seeing smoke, that's my sage. I just wanted to clear my head and get things moving for this episode. So, we can't help who we fall in love with, and we know this. We know this. The heart wants what it wants. And sometimes it's an unrequited love. And they say that, if you love something, you got to fight for it, right? You got to fight for that love. You got to fight for that companionship. You got to fight for it. But at what point are you fighting yourself with regards to staying in this relationship that's really not going anywhere? And a lot of us are people so many of us are givers. So many of us give our time, give our energy, give, the person's not feeling well, so you bring them some soup, or you're helping them with their kids or whatever it is, right? We give so much of ourselves because we want them to see who we are. We want them to know that they're loved. And this isn't always going to work. This isn't always going to ring true for the person that you're loving. And this is really a hard kind of lesson. It's a hard lesson. This is a theme. I think it's only Wednesday. No, it's Thursday today. And this has been a theme for me this week, seeing friends or clients who are in relationships or kind of running after relationships that are not going anywhere. So I'm hoping that with this, we can give you some insight, can give you some strength to make a decision about what it is you need to do. Because at some point, you have to come first. At some point, you have to make a decision to make the relationship about you. You have to make the relationship about you and what it is that you need. And that's really tough to do. It is really hard to let go of something, especially when you think that it is your last chance at love or your true love. They're your soulmate. They're your whatever it is. It's really hard to give up. It's also really hard to give up when you have a history, when you've invested so much time, when you've invested so much energy. Like I said before, when you've given so much to this person, it's hard to let go. But at some point, and there's that cliche, you got to love yourself more. You got to love yourself more. I should have written down points, but I didn't. So we'll just move through them. And it's very hard to step away from these relationships. And they might be giving you every single sign there is to say, I'm not ready. I'm not ready and I'm not worthy. So it's one thing to kind of be with someone who believes they're not ready for a relationship. That takes time. That means, that it takes time. They probably just need to evolve a little bit themselves and, perhaps find themselves out. It is a much different ball game, kettle of fish, when kettle of fish doesn't even make sense, but you know what I mean? It is a much different ball game when this person doesn't believe that they're worthy. And in my conversation today with a very dear friend of mine, I said, it doesn't matter if you were Halle Berry, Monica Bellucci, Jennifer Lopez, Beyonce, Janet Jackson, and I don't know, who else all rolled into one. Doesn't matter. Bend over backwards, walk on water, be the second coming of Christ himself. Unless that person is feeling worthy, unless that person feels like they deserve that, doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how much love you give them. They're going to reject it because they don't feel worthy of it. And that's really hard because we may see who they are. We see their potential. We see them for who they are. They don't. And this could be because they were hurt a gazillion times before you met. It could be, they've gotten out of a relationship that was really abusive. And I find a lot of times people that come out of those abusive relationships actually become the abuser because they were so used. It's as though they have to take their power back. So they go the opposite end of the spectrum. And for so many years, they were treated as though they were less than. They were spoken down to, verbally abused, emotionally abused, perhaps physically abused. They were weak in that relationship. So they've released themselves from those bonds. They've released themselves from their bondage within that relationship. And now they become that person because they want to get their power back. It's almost like it's the only power they know. And so they become what they live with for 30 years, 20 years, whatever it might be. They become that person. You, just stepping into it and wanting to love that person, are now getting the residual effects of that previous relationship. And again, it doesn't matter how loving, how understanding, how supportive, how genuine you are about your feelings for them. They are not going to believe it for 1 second. Not one bloody second, which is unfortunate. It's so unfortunate. They cannot see the forest through the trees. They cannot see past their own nose. They are so wrapped up in their own, it's really pain, right? They're not releasing the pain. And so it becomes very hard to stay in relationships or even be in relationships with these people because they're going to push and push and push and push you away. You have to know that this is not your fault. You have to know that you can't change this. You can't change this. And you already know that when you're not feeling good about yourself, it doesn't matter what people tell you. Hey, Joanne, you look great today. If I feel like shit today, then I'm going to think those folks are talking crap, right? I'm going to think they're liars and really they're just blowing smoke up my ass because I'm not feeling good about myself in that minute. But if I'm feeling myself and loving myself, if someone says to, girl, you looking good, I'm going to be like, yes. And I feel good. Thank you. You're going to take that on. You're going to accept that compliment and you're going to live in that feeling. You're going to exude that. These folks are not bad people. They're not bad people. They're just in a bad space. And sometimes we think that relationships are supposed to fix everything, right? They're supposed to, you leave your bad relationship and you get into the relationship that you've always wanted to be in. And it doesn't work because they haven't repaired themselves or you haven't repaired yourself. So what happens is you're bringing a lot of those old patterns into the new relationship. Nothing's going to shift. Nothing's going to change. It's like, it's a broken record. It keeps skipping and skipping over that same groove in the record that was scratched originally. You have to acknowledge that piece. You have to sit with that. So we kind of fill things in. And the way I explained it to someone the other day, and I don't know if this analogy makes sense, you as the nucleus. You as the nucleus, the sun, let's say. You as the sun, and everything else is rotating around you. So it's work, it's finances, it's home, it's family, it's whatever it is, your business. So you work on those things. You work on keeping those things circling around you, right? You work on keeping those things in orbit. If you are slowly working up to this white dwarf, so there's stuff building up, and there's energy building up, there's resentment building up, there's fatigue, there is all of those things building up, you're going to implode, right? We see those things in the universe, these superstars, these white dwarfs, they just implode. They become so hot that they implode on themselves. And everything else that you worked to keep in orbit falls apart. You burn it to cinders because you haven't worked to cool what's happening inside of you. We think we can ignore, and I've done this, where I work to excel at my job, where I work to excel as a parent. If I didn't excel in a relationship or at the relationship that I was in, it wasn't going to work. If I didn't work to fix myself, and the reason why you don't do that is because you're scared, right? We get scared of what we're going to see, what we're going to feel, and maybe discover that, holy fuck, I did screw up. Maybe, I'm not perfect. We put so much value in this perfection, which is so fake. It's impossible to do that. It's impossible to be perfect. We are perfect in the things that make us imperfect. And that's such a cliche, but it's true. It is so true. Perfect in the little roles, perfect in, the way you get angry, perfect. Those are real emotions. We cannot be your real things. We cannot be perfection all the time. It's impossible. So when you try to do that and you're ignoring the history of abuse, you're ignoring alcoholism, you're ignoring your, 3 other failed marriages, you're ignoring your finances, the fact that, you can't, you're $60,000 in debt or 70,000, whatever it is, you're ignoring that stuff. You can't keep anything else afloat. You, as that centerpiece, has to come correct in order for everything else to run smooth. And you know this innately, because if you're tired and agitated, what happens? You basically spew that shit out at whoever else is around you. You spew out the agitation, you spew out the fatigue, you get frustrated. So loving someone who also kind of lives this way becomes tiring, becomes exhausting. It may become a form of abuse because they're constantly pushing you away, like emotionally draining because they're constantly pushing you away. It's not fair to you. And they may not be particularly honest and say, I'm not being fair to you, right? They may, because they can't acknowledge what's happening with themselves in that moment. They're not rooted enough or grounded enough in their truth to admit that this is the issue. They are going to project the issue. So they might say that it's, a relationship. They might say that their family members, for instance, may never accept your relationship. They might say that it's not going to work because of work, for whatever reason. But they're always going to create an excuse as to why it can't work. And the excuse isn't going to be them. Their excuse is not going to be, you know what, I am not ready, or I don't feel worthy of you. Sometimes I think they may say that. And then when we do, you would say, oh my gosh, but you are worthy. I'm not worth, I'm no big deal. But fuck yeah, you are a fucking big deal. And if they can't handle you as a big deal, they shouldn't be with you. You don't allow that. And this is a hard lesson, because like I said, the heart wants what it wants, and we try to figure out, how do I make it better for them? How do I, make them see? How do I get them to acknowledge that it's me that they're looking for? But you actually can't. You cannot do that, because they have to see this within themselves. So one of the hardest things you're going to have to do is pull yourself out of that situation. And you could be madly in love with this person, but you're going to have to pull yourself out of the situation. Become madly in love with yourself again. Try not to blame yourself for falling in, for falling in love with this person. I honestly believe that everything happens for a reason. We meet people for a reason. We talk about soulmates. I don't believe that there's a soulmate for us. I believe that there are many soulmates. My children, my spouse, my best friends. We are souls mates. We are mates. We are soulmates. We have known each other for lifetimes. So you can have many soulmates. I think you can have more. We talk of twin flames. I think you can have more than one twin flame. Probably two, I would say two, where you guys connect and you mesh, and it's on a spiritual, cosmic level where you all don't know it's not just, it's your essence, the essence of one another, where you know each other. That's the twin flame feeling. And so we hang on to that because we think we're never going to find that again. That's not true. We hang on to the soulmate because we think we're not going to find that again. That is not true. So step away. Sometimes we have to give them space for them to figure out who they are. Right? They've come out of a relationship perhaps, or they've been celibate for some time, or I think those are the two things. We have to give them time to figure out who they are. And they may have been out of a relationship for some time, but in that time, if they didn't do the work that they needed to do to heal themselves, to acknowledge their pain, to acknowledge, all those things that they went through, to forgive themselves, by the time you show up, they're still not going to be ready. They're still not going to be ready. And in these times, there are so many people who are empaths, empathetic. They find their connection. As empaths. So you feel for everyone, and you feel for that person that's been heartbroken and devastated, by their marriage or the relationship, or, the wife took off with their kids, or their kids don't speak. We get into that relationship and we feel for them. But we cannot fix their pain. We cannot fix what they're ignoring. We can't. It's not our job. Loving someone has limits. And the limit is when you are compromising your own health, when you are compromising your own state of mind. And I'm not saying that shifting out of that feeling for them is going to be easy. Hell fucking no. It's not going to be easy. No way. It is no way going to be easy. But you have to preserve some of yourself. As an empath, you're going to take on that pain and that energy that they're dealing with. but that's not yours to take on. And in a relationship, we know it doesn't matter if it's a friendship, your relationship with your parents, it doesn't matter what kind of relationship it is. There has to be reciprocity. There has to be give and take. And you cannot constantly be giving without getting anything back. Or you're giving and you're getting something for a short period of time, and then that person decides, well, no, I can't fucking do this anymore. I'm done. My family won't accept you, so we can't do this anymore. It's a rubber band effect, is what I see. And there's only so far the rubber band will stretch. There are only so many times the rubber band will stretch at a certain distance before it snaps. And when you snap, what's going to happen? When you as the rubber band snap, what's going to happen? You're going to fall apart. You are going to fall apart. It's not going to go well. So you really have to, this is when you step back. This is when you take a breath. This is when you look after yourself and start reevaluating. It's okay not to give all the time. It's okay not to care all the time. It is okay not to love the way you love so deeply. And sometimes because that's who you are, it feels wrong to be, to give half-ass and love. Sometimes you have to. It's called self-preservation. And you can give them love from afar. You can let them have what they want from afar and not, you can release them with love and let them do what they need to do. Absolutely, you can. And the same love you feel for them is the same love that you use to release them. And again, I'm not saying it's not going to hurt like a motherfucker. It will. Because sometimes it may take so much longer than you need it to. 10 years. You don't want to be waiting for someone for 10 years. And listen, if they're telling you, I don't want a relationship, they're telling you the truth. You can't force it. You can't push it. You can't do any of that. You just have to let things sit and let the universe take it, let the creator take it and do what they need to do. Because trust me, you're not meant to stay in that place of uncertainty and instability and really unkindness, if that's really a word. You're not meant to stay in that space. There is love available to you elsewhere. It just may take some time to find it. And if you hold on to it, you're not going to know. You're not going to know.